Hi, this is ibzPrimeTV and welcome to ibzPrimeTV. In the earlier discussion, we learned about the types of communication mode, context, and purpose and style. In this video, we will review the nature of communication process and some important communication models. Why is it important to know about the communication models? And that is what we're going to talk about today. It is important to know about the communication models because they will help you understand how a communication process works. It is only by knowing the flow of communication that you will be able to make the communication process effective. A model is often abstract. It is a representation of a real-world phenomenon applied to different forms. The interplay of variable in the model is represented graphically. Try to assess later what comprises the communication models and what variables are common to each of them. There are many conceptual models for human communication, but in this video, you will be exposed to only four: Aristotle's model, Laswell's model, Shannon-Weaver's model, and David Berlo's model of communication. Let's touch first the Aristotle's communication model. Classical rhetoric dates back to ancient Greece during the time of Plato, Aristotle, and the Greek sophists, who were great rhetoricians. Effective public speaking was an important consideration in the study of communication. They were good at argumentation and debate, and speech was characterized by repartee. Aristotle emphasized that there are three variables in the communication process: speaker, speech, and audience, as illustrated in the communication down here. Note that the speaker variable here is very important. Without a speaker, there will be no speech to be produced. Depending on the profile of the audience, the speaker adjusts his or her speech. Some considerations for the audience demographic are age, sex, background, culture, race, religion, gender, social and economic status, and political orientation or inclination, and among others. Even beliefs, views, and attitudes also play an important role when talking about audience consideration, since oftentimes the audience bring this with them when they decode a message in any given situation. The next communication model is Laswell. In 1948, Harold Dwight Laswell described communication as being focused on the following W's: who, says what, in which channel, to whom, and with what effect, as seen in the model below. The whole process of communication begins with the communicator sending out a message using a medium for a receiver experiencing an effect afterwards. The process may be analyzed through the content sent, the medium used, as well as the effect on the recipient of the message. While this model is similar to Aristotle's in the sense that both are linear and have the same components, Laswell's also differs in that there are five variables involved with the addition of two: medium and effects. Shannon-Weaver's communication model. Claude Elwood Shannon and Warren Weaver's model of communication was introduced in 1949, a year after Laswell's, for Bell Laboratories. Originally, it was conceptualized for the functioning of the radio and television, serving as a model for technical communication, and, later on, adopted in the field of communication. In this model, other components such as noise, reception, destination, and feedback have been identified. Other terms such as information source for the sender, transmitter for the encoder, reception for the decoder, and destination for the receiver were introduced. Lastly, we have Berlo's communication model. David Berlo's model, conceptualized in 1960, is probably the most well-known among the communication models. Initially, Berlo's model was called SMCR, which stands for Sender of the Message, sent through a channel or medium to a receiver. However, it was modified later on to include noise, hence the acronym SMCRN. The major variables involved in the communication process are source, message, channel, and receiver. The source, being the originator of the message, acts as the encoder. As such, the encoder should practice communication skills such as listening, speaking, reading, and writing. His or her attitude towards the audience as his or her knowledge about the topic on hand likewise counts along with the social system that he or she is in, which includes values, beliefs and practices, and culture. The second variable, which is the message, includes content, elements such as language use and gestures employed, treatment or the manner by which the message is transmitted, and structure, which refers to the arrangement of parts or flow of the message. The code shows how the message is sent, that is, the language or verbal code used, and the accompanying gestures or the nonverbal code employed. Note that there should be no mismatch between the verbal and the nonverbal codes. The third variable, which is channel, refers to the different senses: seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, and touching. Finally, the fourth variable is receiver, the one who decodes the message. Note that the components of this last variable are similar to those of the first, since for communication to be effective, both the source and the receiver should have good communication skills. Now let's talk about the general principles of effective communication. Since communication is a two-way process, it is important that you know the principles to be observed to make it effective. For both oral and written communication, you should be able to apply the following principles. Number 1. Know your purpose in communicating. Are you communicating basically to inform, to entertain, or to persuade? While you may have more than one purpose, there is still a more dominant objective or reason why you communicate. Number 2. Know your audience. In both speaking and writing, you should know your audience as it will dictate the speaking or writing style you are going to employ. Consider the age, educational background, profession, culture, and other salient features of your listeners or readers. Number 3. Know your topic. You communicate essentially because you want to share something. In speaking situations, speakers are invited because they have something to share. This also applies to writing. You write because you wish that other people learn something from you. You may then utilize several or multiple communication techniques to easily catch the attention of the audience. Number 4. Adjust your speech or writing to the context of the situation. The environment in which your speech or writing is to be delivered determines the kind of the language you will use. Number 5. Work on the feedback given you. Once you receive comments from the listeners or readers, work on them. Take kindly to criticism. In the long run, constructive criticisms will prove beneficial to you as you learn to address them. There are 5 principles of effective oral communication. Number 1. Be clear with your purpose. You should know by heart your objective in communicating. Number 2. Be complete with the message you deliver. Make sure that your claims are supported by facts and essential information. Number 3. Be concise. You do not need to be verbose or wordy with your statements. Brevity in speech is a must. Number 4. Be natural with your delivery. Punctuate important words with the appropriate gestures and movements. Exude a certain degree of confidence even if you do not feel confident enough. Number 5. Be specific and timely with your feedback. Inputs are most helpful when provided on time. There are 7 C's of effective written communication. Number 1. Be clear. Be clear about your message. Always be guided by your purpose in communicating. Number 2. Be concise. Always stick to the point and do not beat or run around the bush. Be brief by focusing on your main point. Number 3. Be concrete. Support your claims with enough facts. Your readers will easily know if you are bluffing or deceiving them because there is nothing to substantiate your claims. Number 4. Be correct. It is important that you observe grammatical correctness in your writing. Always have time to revise and edit your work. Even simple spelling errors may easily distract your readers. Number 5. Be coherent. Your writing becomes coherent only when you convey a logical message. The ideas should be connected to each other and related to the topic. Make sure that you observe a sound structure that will help present a smooth flow of your ideas. Use transitional or cohesive ideas so that the ideas cohere with one another. Number 6. Be complete. Include all necessary and relevant information so that the audience will not be left wanting of any information. Always place yourself in the shoes of the audience, who is always interested to receive new information. And number 7, be courteous. The tone of your writing should be friendly. Avoid any overtone or undertone or insinuation to eliminate confusion and misinterpretation. Communication ethics emphasizes that morals influence the behavior of an individual, group, or organization, thereby affecting their communication. For instance, giving the unethical communication practice of a certain company of concealing the non-remittance of deducted premiums from employees' salary to the SSS or the Social Security System or GSIS or Government Service Insurance System in the case of government offices, the company's accountability to its employees is undoubtedly affected. Compare the situation with that of an organization that observes ethical practice and remits the employees' monthly contributions to the SSS or GSIS regularly. It is important to note that one's behavior should be regulated by honesty, decency, truthfulness, sincerity, and moral uprightness. Be guided by the following to achieve ethical communication. Number 1. Establish an effective value system that will pave the way for the development of your integrity as a person. One's behavior and decision-making style affect, in turn, the operations of an organization. Number 2. Provide complete and accurate information. Whether it is needed or not, the data you provide should always be contextualized and correct. And number 3. Disclose vital information adequately and appropriately. Never conceal or hide information that are necessary for purposes of transparency. Observing a code of ethics is essential as it determines the kind of behavior that is proper and desirable over one that is displeasing and offensive. A code of ethics sets the standards to be observed by a person or a company that will create a good reputation or a positive image not only for an individual but also for the organization. It will therefore pave the way for the attainment of the desired results, leading to the success of an individual or the entire company. Success in decision making will likewise impact the company's reputation. To sum it up, the communication models explain how the communication process works. Some of the well-known conceptual models are Aristotle, Shannon-Weaver, Laswell, and Berlo's models. For oral communication to be effective, there is a need to be clear with the purpose, complete and concise with the message, natural with the delivery, and specific and timely with the feedback. For written communication to be effective, the 7 C's, namely clarity, conciseness, concreteness, correctness, coherence, completeness, and courtesy should be observed. A code of ethics is important for any organization. Without it, confusion, misunderstandings, and conflicts arise within the structure since there are no standards to be observed. And now, let's try to have